People often think that a pillow is such a small thing that it couldn't possibly make a real difference in their life. But when you've lived through many seasons, you realize that comfort doesn't come from big gestures. It's found in the quiet details. A soft sip of tea before bed, the way sunlight rests on your hands in the morning, or the way your neck feels when it's not being forced into a shape that no longer suits you. At 88, I've learned something surprising. I don't sleep with a pillow anymore. Not because I read it in a book or saw it in some health article, but because my body quietly asked for it. And when I listened, I discovered a kind of rest I hadn't felt in years. Aging does something curious to us. It strips away what isn't essential. When we were younger, we could carry extra weight, tolerate restless nights, even force our body into habits that weren't very kind. But over time, that capacity softens. What once felt fine in our 40s or 50s may feel heavy, awkward, even harmful decades later. That isn't failure, it's wisdom. It's your body showing you that the simplest path is often the truest one. Think about how a tree grows old. The branches may not stretch as wide as they once did, but the roots go deeper, the essence grows stronger. In the same way, we stop chasing what everyone else says we must have, and instead discover what quietly serves us. A pillow, for some, brings support. For others, it presses the head forward, narrows the breath, stiffens the morning. Neither choice is right or wrong. It is only about what feels aligned with you today, in this moment of your life. I know change can feel unsettling. Even something as small as leaving aside a pillow may feel strange, as though you're abandoning a rule that has followed you since childhood. But what if letting go of one habit opened the door to a gentler night, a calmer morning? What if rest became less about what's expected and more about what's needed? That's the gift of age. You're free to write new rules that suit your present body. Maybe you've already felt the discomfort of a stiff neck upon waking. Maybe you've wondered why your breathing feels shallow at night. Or maybe you've never thought about it at all. Wherever you are on that path, simply noticing is the first step. No one needs to rush into change. Sometimes just asking yourself, "Do I feel truly comfortable as I am?" is enough. And if the answer is no, then perhaps there's space to try something new, gently, without pressure, only with curiosity. I've shared my truth, but what about yours? I would love to know. Where are you reading this from right now? Share your city or country in the comments. It's always such a joy to see how these reflections connect us across the miles, reminding us that even in our differences, we are walking the same path of discovery together.
It may sound unusual at first, the idea of laying your head down without a pillow, but for some people it becomes an unexpected source of relief. You see, the body often whispers long before it shouts. A small ache in the morning, a feeling of heaviness in the neck, a sense that sleep is not as restful as it once was, these are the signals worth listening to. And when you give them attention, surprising solutions sometimes appear. I remember Helen, who was 82. For years, she woke each day with a dull headache and stiffness that seemed to cling to her shoulders like a weight. She tried creams, gentle exercises, even new mattresses, but nothing seemed to ease her mornings. One afternoon, she told me she simply lay down to rest without her pillow, just as an experiment. At first, it felt odd, like something was missing. But to her surprise, she awoke from that short nap without the tightness she had come to expect. Slowly, she began doing the same at night, keeping a thin towel nearby in case she needed it. Within a week, her mornings felt lighter, her headaches softened, and her confidence grew. She hadn't followed a strict rule, she had simply listened. That, in many ways, is the key. Not forcing yourself into a new habit, but gently trying, noticing, adjusting. If you are curious to explore this, you don't need to leap into it overnight. Begin with a simple experiment during an afternoon rest, when there is no pressure to fall into deep sleep. Allow yourself to lie down without a pillow for just 20 minutes. Place a folded towel beside you so your mind knows support is near if you want it. This small safety net often makes the change feel less intimidating. If that feels manageable, you can carry the experiment into the night. Keep your pillow close at hand, but give yourself the chance to rest without it first. Notice how your body responds upon waking. Do you feel freer in your neck, calmer in your breathing, or perhaps no different at all? There is no failure here, only learning. Over time, you may find your body asking for less support, or perhaps reminding you that it still prefers a little cushion. Both answers are valid because the real practice is listening, not forcing. The older we become, the more we realize that wisdom is not about rules written in stone, but about the grace to adapt to what is true for us in this season of life. And that truth may look different from your neighbors, your spouses, even your younger self. That's the beauty of it. You are free to choose again each day. If reflections like this bring you comfort, if they make you pause and consider your own habits with a little more kindness, I would gently encourage you to subscribe. I share these thoughts often because I believe we all deserve reminders that aging can be approached with curiosity and care. Sometimes the smallest changes open doors to the deepest peace.
When we think about sleep, we often imagine it as something automatic. Close your eyes, drift away, wake refreshed. But the truth is, the body changes with age, and so does the way it rests. What felt natural in your 30s or 40s can begin to feel restrictive later in life. And nowhere is this more noticeable than in how the spine and neck respond to support. As we grow older, the natural curve in the neck, what doctors call the cervical lordosis, often becomes less pronounced. Muscles that once held everything firmly in place begin to soften, joints lose some flexibility, and tissues don't spring back as quickly as before. If you place a thick pillow under your head with that altered structure, instead of supporting you, it may push the neck forward and close the throat slightly. That small shift can create stiffness, headaches, and even contribute to snoring or restless sleep. It isn't that the pillow itself is bad, it's that the body it is serving has changed, and what once was helpful can now feel like a burden. Breathing is another piece of this puzzle. A high pillow can narrow the airway by bending the chin closer to the chest. For someone in their 20s, that may not matter much, but for a person in their 70s or 80s with already reduced elasticity in the lungs and chest wall, every bit of open space for air to flow is precious. Sometimes removing or lowering the pillow gently opens the airway and allows for deeper, calmer breaths. Think of it as giving the body permission to rest in its truest alignment, without artificial angles it no longer welcomes. This doesn't mean everyone should immediately discard their pillows. Some people, especially those with certain spinal conditions, may still need gentle support. But it does mean listening carefully to how your body responds when you try something new. Do you notice less tightness when you turn your head in the morning? Does your breathing feel freer through the night? Does your jaw unclench more easily? These are small but important signals. The deeper message here is not about pillows at all. It's about recognizing that your body's needs will not stay fixed forever. Aging is not a decline, it's a process of refinement. Just as a craftsman polishes wood until its natural grain shines, time polishes us until only what truly matters remains. Perhaps that means fewer layers between you and your mattress. Perhaps that means learning to rest with less. There is wisdom in simplifying. You may not have noticed these subtle changes before, and that's all right. We spend so many years focusing on pushing forward, working, caring for others, carrying responsibilities, that it takes a conscious pause to notice what our own bodies are asking for. Maybe now is the moment to give yourself that pause. Experiment slowly, without judgment. There is no right or wrong outcome, only the quiet truth of what feels best for you.
If you feel curious to try resting without a pillow, the most important thing is to move with gentleness. Change, at any age, should never feel like a battle. It should feel like an invitation. Think of it not as giving something up, but as slowly opening a new door, one you can step through only when you are ready. One way to begin is by starting small. Instead of removing your pillow entirely, try folding a thin scarf or towel and placing it beneath your head. This offers just a whisper of support, enough to reassure your body that it is cared for, while giving your neck the chance to settle into a more natural line.
Rest with it for a few nights and notice how you feel in the morning. Does your neck feel lighter? Does your jaw soften? Or do you find yourself missing the height of your old pillow? There is no wrong answer here, only information that helps you understand yourself more deeply. Once you've grown comfortable with a thinner support, you may experiment with removing it for short stretches. Try it during a nap first, when there is no pressure to sleep long or deep. Allow yourself to lie flat, and if you feel strain in your lower back, place a small cushion or folded blanket under your knees. This tiny adjustment can relieve pressure and allow your whole spine to lengthen naturally. What you are doing here is not just changing a habit, you are creating a dialogue with your body. You are saying, "I am listening, I am willing to adjust." And that kind of listening is healing in itself. Over a few nights, you might notice your breathing slowing more easily, or your neck moving with greater ease. Or you may notice no big difference at all, which is also valuable knowledge. Remember, not all change is about dramatic results. Sometimes it's about discovering that what you were already doing suits you well enough. In those moments, you gain clarity, and clarity is its own form of comfort. If you do choose to continue, keep your pillow nearby for reassurance. Place it beside you so you know that comfort is always within reach. This isn't about discipline or proving strength. It's about kindness, about allowing rest to become truly restful. Often we think of sleep as something passive, but in truth, it's an act of care, a ritual of returning to yourself. Aging, too, is a kind of ritual. Each adjustment we make, whether in how we move, eat, or rest, is a reminder that we are still learning, still capable of choosing what serves us best. And isn't that a beautiful thought? That even in our later years, perhaps especially then, we can create new ways of caring for ourselves. So if you decide to try, do it slowly, without pressure, and with the spirit of curiosity. Let it be a gentle exploration, not a demand. Your body will tell you what feels right, and if you listen closely, it will always guide you toward greater ease. It is interesting how so many of us grew up believing that a good pillow was the secret to a good night's sleep.
Advertisements, shops, even friendly advice often repeat that message. And yet, the more years I've lived, the more I've realized that comfort does not come from objects. It comes from alignment, from peace within the body and mind. At 88, I no longer look for the perfect pillow. I look for the position that allows my breath to flow easily, my neck to rest without strain, my heart to feel unburdened. That is what real rest is. Aging teaches us this lesson over and over. Simplicity often holds the deepest wisdom. Just as a tree sheds leaves it no longer needs, we too can let go of habits that no longer serve us. A pillow is just one example, but the principle extends further. What other parts of your life feel heavy now, simply because they were carried forward out of habit? It might be an unnecessary object in your home, a routine you no longer enjoy, or even a belief about what should be done. With time, we are invited to travel lighter, to choose ease over expectation. I have come to see my body as an old friend, not always predictable, sometimes slower, often tender, but always honest. It whispers instead of shouts, and when I listen, I learn what truly matters. This relationship with the body is one of the quiet gifts of age. It teaches us that what felt essential in one season may be optional in the next, and that letting go is not loss, but freedom. When you think about your own rest, ask yourself gently, am I holding on to something just because it feels familiar or because it still brings me comfort? There is no judgment in either answer, only awareness. And in that awareness, you gain the power to choose anew. If my reflections have resonated with you, I would invite you to stay connected, to subscribe, so that we can continue sharing these gentle discoveries together. And I would love to hear your own thoughts. Have you ever tried sleeping without a pillow, or do you feel it would be too unusual for you? Share your story in the comments. These conversations remind us that while each body is unique, the search for ease, comfort, and peace is something we all share.